a what now? Hey, hey, hey. I'm a Rastafarian, targaryen. I got some dragons and they're very scary. And been here and there and then I've been everywhere again. Rastafarian, targaryen.
What's going on, everybody? Mansa Musa here. So yeah, you just saw that man was Corlys Velaryon from the A Song in Ice and Fire books, and he will be featured in the Dance of the Dragons TV series, prequel series that's coming up. Corlys motherfucking Velaryon. So, the Game of Thrones prequel House of the Dragons has just hired Steve Toussaint to play Corlys Velaryon, or as I call him, Rastafarian Targaryen. Or should I say Rastafarian Velaryon? Because, I mean, just look at him with those dreads. Like, look at these glorious dreads right here. My God. Those dreads would put David Diggs from Snowpiercer to shame. I mean, they really would. Like, and whenever I pictured, so whenever I heard, because in the books, apparently one Targaryen lord had bastards from the Summer Isles. Whenever I pictured what their children looked like, I always pictured their hair to be Valyrian, like at least gray, because it can't be completely white. But it would be like black hair. It would be either in dreads or nappy, which I'm okay with. Like, y'all ever read Children of Blood and Bone? Like, it's kind of like the Magi from Children of Blood and Bone. But anyways, when I first saw this, the thing that immediately popped into my head was Rastaman. Like, if you look at those glorious dreads, they look like a Rastaman. Like a Jamaican Rastaman. And then when I thought of Jamaican Rastaman, Game of Thrones, Rastaman, Game of Thrones, I remembered when Emilia Clarke was cringingly singing Rastafarian Targaryen. And then I just said, shit, you know what? I'm already going to make a video on the reaction of this. I might as well put that in the video. But, so, yeah, like, I'm really excited on this. And I'm glad they made him black. Like, and I wasn't even thinking about any social justice as he's black. Because I'm just saying, oh, that's cool. Like, he looks like me. Like, I feel represented. Oh my God, how cringe. I must sound so cringe when I say I feel represented. But listen, that's the thing with these characters. Like, black people, they need to see themselves as Corlys Velaryon, as a brave leader of a fleet, a brave sailor. The sea snake. Like, he's the fucking sea snake. Just like white people, they've seen themselves in all these heroes. They've seen themselves in Jon Snow. They've seen themselves in Jaime Lannister or Tywin Lannister. Like, they don't call him Tywin for nothing. It's Tywin, not Ty Luz. Or Tormund Giantsbane. Shit, the Hound. Like, there are so many strong white male characters in Game of Thrones that young white males can look up to. So why can't there be? And you know what? I'm not gonna say that they haven't had any black character. There was Grey Worm, but I mean, Grey Worm, he's strong, but maybe this is just me, but I didn't understand his character in the show. I just didn't understand him. Like, the only clue I got to what was going on in his head was when he was around Missandei. Because he really opened up around Missandei. And Missandei, too. I liked her character. Her character, she was interesting. Like, again, I don't really know deep down what's in her. Like, all the other characters, they got more screen time. You got more of an in-depth look of what is going on in that noggin of theirs. But with Masane and Grey Worm, like, it's only when they were around each other that you knew what the fuck they were going through or what the fuck was going through their head. And but yeah, so it'll be nice to see a character that you'll see regularly, a main character who happens to be the same skin tone as me. Like, just run this shit. But take a look at some of these comments. This makes me so angry. Corlys is one of my favorite characters in the book. I can't accept this. Yes, how dare they cast a nigger to play Corlys Velaryon. This is a travesty. Me, I want Corlys the sea snake Velaryon. Mom, we have Corlys Velaryon at home. Corlys Velaryon at home. Yep. See, black people, they're just, they're lame. They're terrible. They're just generic. Like, if he was white, then he would have been cool. Yeah, the color of his skin dictates whether or not he's a good character. Yeep. All downhill from season 8, guys. So one character gets turned black, if you would call it turned black, and the whole show is ruined. But racism doesn't exist, right? The dance of diversity. The true battle in a song of virtue signaling. Okay. You know what? That one's pretty funny. It is. Here's my favorite one. Milky complexion. They never said what kind of milk. D&D. That's David and Dan. The writers of the show. So I'll get to that one in a second. That milky complexion quote. Because it's wrong. God, how many fucking brain cells did I lose looking at those comments? When I found out that he was going to be black, as somebody who read the books, I was hoping for once everybody would be happy. Like even those people, those anti-SJWs, maybe they wouldn't even care. Like, because they don't see race, right? They don't see race. What the fuck was I thinking? Like, and you know what? I'm not going to be like a regressive leftist and call all of you that don't like this racist, white supremacists, Nazis. I'm not going to do that. But I will say that you're ignorant, uneducated, and you paid no attention to the details in the books. Now, I will say that I thought he would look like a Valyrian. I thought Corlys Velaryon was, looked like a Valyrian, and the Valyrians in the books, they were described as looking like Daenerys and her brother Viserion and the like. And those comments were on Y Create's channel, and I'm subscribed to him, yo. Like, I'm literally considering unsubscribing from Y Create because of his audience. It's like, no, I'm kidding. He's amazing. If you're new to Game of Thrones or you simply like Game of Thrones lore, you should definitely subscribe to his channel. Now, speaking of anti-SJWs, I thought Clownfish TV was going to get on this. But much to my surprise, I didn't see any video on this. I mean, I hope I'm not speaking too soon, but if they were going to respond to this, I think they'd do it soon. Now, I may be wrong, and if I am, then I'll put in the descriptions that I was wrong, and I'll put a link to that video. But if this was their intention not to make a video on this, much respect to them, because the people overreacting to this are ridiculous. Like I said, him being, well, I don't know if I said this yet, but him being black doesn't break the rules of the books. You'll remember the last comment described Valyrian features as having a milky white complexion. This is fucking false, and I'll tell you why later on. Many in the anti-SJW sphere have accused the showrunners of being woke. This is also false. this isn't blackwashing. This isn't for some diversity quota. Game of Thrones has always had criticism for not featuring diverse characters or black characters. And they didn't listen then, yet the show was still a hit. The show was still great. So here's the truth about Game of Thrones. They don't have to fit a diversity narrative. And that's the truth. It takes place in medieval times. You know, medieval times when in real life white Europeans thought that Africans were literally subhuman. And that should be no surprise because let's face it, a lot of the things in the past, a lot of the people in the past were racist. Like, there's no doubt about it. And that goes for Africans too, even though it was less documented. Because people don't like to admit this. Racism, unfortunately, is a part of human nature. It is. It's primal. It's something that's within us. We can overcome it if we teach tolerance, but it's a part of human nature. Now, that's in reality. In the fantasy world of George R. R. Martin's, the equivalent of Africans in Game of Thrones are called the Summer Islanders. The Summer Islanders come from an archipelago of islands south of Westeros called the Summer Isles. And you know what? I do plan on making a video on them one day. So the Summer Islanders were described as being strong, tall, handsome, and eager to learn. They had black hair and eyes, and they come in skin tones from nut brown, teak, and ebony. Sounds like an African to me. Now, in the world of A Song of Ice and Fire, the Westerosi have respect for the Summer Islanders and regularly trade with them. I mean, just look at the way they describe them. They describe them as handsome and eager to learn, which is the opposite of what medieval Europeans thought of Africans, as I just mentioned. But another thing about the Summer Islanders is that they had a heavy seafaring culture. Some of the best pirates, corsairs, and celsaires were Summer Islanders. Like, take Zobar Kokwa, who was known throughout Westeros and Essos as a rich and successful pirate merchant. He was even a member of the Band of Nine, working with Meleys the Monstrous of the House Blackfyre during the Blackfyre Rebellion. And we of course cannot forget about the Summer Isle's famous swan ships. These swan ships were created by Princess Xandor Ko, who also invented the signature golden harp bow. These swan ships were designed to support Summer Islander archers. So, all that being said, you can see how the Summer Islanders were incredibly skilled at seafaring. So it makes a lot of sense why a character who is well known and a skilled sea captain would have ties to the Summer Isles. So now I'm going to explain why him being black is not so far-fetched at all, or is not trying to fit some woke diversity narrative, but could actually be considered canon. And I will be using facts, as you know, there are going to be endless receipts in the description below, as always, if you look at my other videos. So let's first ask the question, who is Corlys Velaryon? Born on 53 AC after conquest, Corlys Velaryon was born on the island of Driftmark to House Velaryon, who were descendants of ancient valyrians, like House Targaryen. By the age of 16, he captained his first vessel, sailing the Cod Queen from Driftmark to Dragonstone. Later on, as he got older, sailed farther, from the Free Cities to the Summer Isles to the Jade Gates to Qarth. And Qarth is actually where he established himself in Eastern trade. He even visited Yi Ti, which is essentially the equivalent of China in Game of Thrones. Again, that's another video for another day. He even at one point traveled north to the Shivering Sea, but he turned back as the Shivering Sea is extremely cold and there are legends of ice dragons and cannibals in the Shivering Sea. He acquired a large fortune from his journeys, bringing honor and riches to House Velaryon. to the point in which their riches even surpassed the Lannisters of Casterly Rock and House Hightower of Old Town. After the death of his grandfather, he was made Lord of Driftmark. He was then later married to Princess Rhaenys Targaryen, and they had 2 children, Laena and Laenor Velaryon. So, in the books, Corlys Velaryon's physical features were never once mentioned. Everybody just assumed he was white. Like, he was a Targaryen, because that's what they assumed Targaryens were, pale-skinned and white. And I'll get to that later, but, and so did I. I'm gonna be honest, so did I. So, House Velaryon descended from Valyria, just like House Targaryen. And if you'll remember earlier, a misinformed individual said that in the books it was stated that Valyrians had milky complexion. This is a half-truth. And in order to explain why this is a half-truth, we have to delve into the history of the Valyrians. So, who are the Valyrians? The Valyrians were an ethnic group that originated from Valyria. Valyria is east of the Summer Isles and south of Slaver's Bay. The climate in Valyria was heavily hot and humid, and on top of all that heat, they were surrounded, well, it was inlaid with many volcanoes, which, as you can see on the map, is referred to as the 14 Flames. The Valyrians in the beginning were not dragon lords and dragon riders, but sheep herders, similar to the Lazarene. They didn't become dragon riders until they found dragon eggs around the 14 flame volcanoes. When the dragons began to hatch from these eggs, the Valyrians began to tame them. A common speculation on how they tamed these dragons was through the use of blood magic. After they successfully tamed these dragons, the Valyrians became a massive superpower throughout Essos. They conquered most of Essos and even established city-states known as the Free Cities. These free cities basically surrounded Valyria and were made up of many races they enslaved. This consisted of Andals, Summer Islanders, Giscari, Nathi, Rhoynar, Ibbenese, and Sarnori. So, you see how multicultural the free cities were. They were incredibly diverse. The Valyrians were heavily inspired by the Roman Empire. The Romans were heavily diverse as well. They enslaved many people: Germans, Egyptians, Nubians, Scythians, Greeks, etc. They enslaved people of all races and colors, even some similar to their own. The Valyrian free cities are based off of these Roman city-states, like Cyrene and Alexandria in Egypt, or Constantinople, which is in modern-day Istanbul. So these are examples of how the Roman empires were a multicultural system. And I don't think that's a controversial statement, as the Romans that lived in these conquered city-states most likely interbred with the natives of these city-states. Now, if you look at the map of the Summer Isles, you'll see that Valyria and the Summer Isles aren't that far apart. The Summer Isles are southwest of Valyria. And in the books, monkeys from the Summer Isles were common house pets to the Valyrian dragon lords, and the Summer Islanders would sell captured prisoners of war as slaves to the Valyrians, which implies that they conducted regular trade. So, and that implies that the Valyrians and the Targaryens had ties and interactions with one another. It's almost like they would have interbred during those ties and interactions with one another. But anyways, back to the Valyrians. At the height of Valyria's power, a cataclysmic volcanic eruption known as the Doom of Valyria occurred. This volcanic eruption wiped out all of the Valyrians and their dragons. It was so bad that the eruption caused a tsunami miles away from the coast of Valyria, which wiped out one of the nearby islands. However, 12 years before this incident, Daenerys the Dreamer of House Targaryen had a vision of the doom of Valyria. She then told her father, head of House Targaryen, of her vision. He moved the entire Targaryen house to what would eventually be known as the Island of Dragonstone. Near the island of Dragonstone was the island of Driftmark, where House Velaryon, a house that had already previously left Valyria, remained. House Velaryon was a lesser house of Valyria, and lesser houses did not own dragons. They were not dragon lords. House Velaryon were sea lords. They were known for their ships and fleets. Now, this is important for reasons I'll get to in a minute. The Dragon Lords of Valyria were incredibly incestuous. They were obsessed with keeping their bloodlines pure, and the only way to do that was through incest. Now, in the Pentos chapter of the Game of Thrones sourcebook, it states that only Dragon Lords, meaning the high houses of Valyria, practiced incest in order to keep their bloodlines pure. However, lower-ranking Valyrian families, such as House Velaryon, were not so strict about blood purity. In fact, the Pantoshi, who were sea lords like House Velaryon, were not protective of their blood. So wouldn't it make sense that a house that isn't particularly protective of their blood purity would mate with just about any other race in the various ports and islands and cities they visit with their massive ships and fleets? And even the incestuous Targaryens on Dragonstones were not as pure as you'd think. Targaryen lords would often sleep with the locals of Dragonstones, creating dragon seeds, which were bastards with Targaryen blood. And the right of the first right was heavily practiced on Dragonstone. For those of you that don't know, the first right, and it's really fucked up, is the law in Westeros that lords of great houses could take a woman's virginity on her wedding night. Yeah. Like I said, it's a fantasy novel, but see, it is grounded in some reality. And the fact that it's grounded in reality is the very reason why George R.R. Martin wouldn't make an entire empire, or as the Valyrians would call themselves, freehold, only mainly consisting of white people. You know, people should really use their brain and consider that Valyrians weren't all 100% pale and milky skinned whites. Like, does that even sound right? Yes, every single Valyrian was white. All of them. Every last bit. And so all of you idiots out there saying that George described him as milky pale white, like, who gives a fuck? It's not the same as the book. Yes, they should stick to the story of the book. They should use the book as the source. But, I mean, they haven't. And it was still a pretty good show. Like, George also said that Valyrians were supposed to have purple and violet eyes. In the show, do you see Daenerys, aka Emilia Clarke, with purple fucking eyes? No, she has green eyes. You can see those green fucking eyes. So not everything in the show can be perfect. Like, do I think she should have had purple eyes? Fuck yes. And they could have made it work. I mean, just look at Yennefer on The Witcher. Like, they gave Yennefer on The Witcher, on Netflix The Witcher, purple eyes. They most definitely could have had Amelia wearing those fucking contacts. Like, it's ridiculous. And the thing is, Yennefer's purple eyes weren't even that cartoonish or CGI looking. Like, it could have totally worked. And that reminds me of that idiot saying that it's gone downhill since season 8. I mean, we'll see in the show. Like, there's already so many fuck-ups. Not much continuity. Ignoring reference from the books and ideas from the fans, as well as characters' appearance. Like, look at Jon. Like, Jon in the books, did you know that in the books he had dark gray eyes and he was supposed to be younger? Yeah. Or Bran. Bran, he was supposed to take after his mother with his red hair and with her red hair and blue eyes. He was supposed to have red hair and blue eyes. Or Dario Naharis. He was supposed to look like a Tyroshi. And the Tyroshi, they dyed their hair in various colors. Like, but Dario's hair was dyed blue. Like, just look at all these fucking arrows. And another thing, in Game of Thrones, there were already 2 characters who in the books were white, but we didn't hear any complaints from y'all. Like, Salladhor Saan in the books was white. I mean, yeah, he was white. He was a white man from Lys. And his ancestor was a famous pirate. Or Daenerys is, well, was supposed to be soon to be husband, Zaro Zohan Daxus, was also white. He was a native of Karth, and in fact, the Karthi, or the Cathys descendants, were incredibly pale. Like, they were so pale that the Dothraki called them the milkmen. And that's who Zaro Zohan Daxus was in the books. And he was gay in the books. Like, he was always looking at male prostitutes, which is funny because he was proposing a marriage to Daenerys in the books. But yeah, boy prostitutes. God, he's creepy. But when we have a black character, oh, suddenly this is some woke SJW shit. And you know what? I'm going to be honest. I'm not a fan of woke. I really am not. I've never been a fan of woke culture. But I'm definitely not a fan of all the anti-SJW hate culture. Like this shit right here. And that's another thing. They're not trying to put a black character into virtue signal or for some woke agenda. Like, have you ever thought that maybe they just thought it would look cooler? Like, being creative, looking at something from a different perspective. Like, we're not about to see Corlys die from we're not about to see Corlys die from Kingsguard brutality, okay? We are not about to see a scene where the Kingsguard knee is in the back of his neck. I'm sorry, that's not funny. But there isn't even going to be a racial thing because, like I said, the Westerosi don't think the Summer Islanders are subhuman and they respect them. Like, it will literally be the same story as if he was white. He's just black. And that's another thing. All, the actual SJWs, they're not, foaming at the mouth at this. They're not that thrilled either because, like I said, there will not be a racial component. It's just like if he was white. And the same people complaining, I bet you when somebody calls them a racist, they're the people that say they don't see race. And you know how much I hate people who say they don't see race. But, can you just give this show a chance? I know the casting is shitty, but who knows? Maybe they might fucking surprise you. This show is gonna kick ass. I honestly think it is. Now, to all of you racist morons who gave up on the show as soon as you heard the sea snake was gonna be black, I don't know, give the show a chance. Or you can bury your fucking heads in the sand for all I care, which I'm completely okay with. And another thing, I guarantee you, even if this character is written well, they will not like him. Simply because he's black. I have always been saying this. You know how gatekeeping blackness is a thing? Gatekeeping whiteness is a thing. Only you guys have to hide it. Hashtag not all of you. Times have not changed at all. And it's really disappointing because, that guy I was talking about, the guy who made a video talking about him, his video got 415 dislikes. 415. And he tried to reason with everybody. There was this one woman up there. This one girl, she commented. And I honestly love this comment. She is a gem. Whoever you are, I would love to speak to you someday. She said, people in the comments are literally being hypocrites. None of them provide direct book evidence for why he cannot be dark-skinned. Exactly. I don't like the casting, but these reactionary attitudes in the comments are why SJWs got the green light to ruin a lot of media. I agree. Facts don't care about your feelings. You know what? That is exactly how I feel when describing this. Facts don't care about your feelings. And the facts are the books did not specify his race at one point, which gives them limited creative license to retcon his character. Now, what's she saying? She says, the books don't specify his skin tone in any way. Yes. Now, if Rhaenyra or someone obvious is race swapped, I'll grab my pitchfork. And that's what I'm saying. The rest of the main cast, none of them were race swapped. If they were really trying to be woke, don't you think they would race swap all of this? You see why and this is all SJW's fault. SJWs created anti-SJWs. And here's another thing. In the books, Corlys' mother was and still is unknown till this day. We don't know the man's mom. So his mom could very well be a Summer Islander. To be clear, this isn't me woke scolding. I absolutely detest woke scolding, okay? But I'm just saying, if you're not convinced, if you still aren't convinced, here is a quote from George R. R. Martin that might put things in perspective. Right from the start, I wanted the Targaryens, and by extension the Valyrians from who they were descended, to be a race apart, with the distinctive features that set them apart from the rest of Westeros and helped explain the obsession with the purity of their blood. To do this, I made a high fantasy choice and gave them silver gold hair, purple and violet eyes, fine chiseled aristocratic features. Now, in that quote, did you ever once, and I mean once, ever hear him say that they have milky pale skin? No? That's because it's implied that they didn't always have milky pale skin 100% of the time. He said he wanted them to be set apart from the rest of Westeros. You heard that? So, the people of Westeros are white. They're white. They are white. So, do you really think that in order to set a race apart from other white people, he would make them white? Like that doesn't sound like setting a race apart because, like, the way you describe them, milky pale white, that could, shit, wasn't, what's his name? Ramsay Bolton in the novels, like, described as milky pale white? Like, anybody in Westeros could also be described as milky pale white. Now, if you're still not convinced, then this is absolutely sure to convince you. Now, let that sit in for a moment. So, and I'll leave a link to that article because it's a whole full article. I'll leave a link in the description below. But that's pretty much it for this video. All of you complaining about this amazing actor who I can't wait to see on the big screen, shut the fuck up. And those of you who still aren't thrilled, who still weren't convinced, I will be happy to have a debate with you in the comment section below, but I know I'll win because the facts are on my side. Bye.
I'm a Rastafarian, tiger, call me the nearest Targaryen when you wanna reach me. And if you feel the love, then you can call me Khaleesi. Got so many names. I'm Queen of the Andals, Queen of the Marine. Yeah, you can kiss me sandals.